Thank you very much. Guess you can all hear me. Well, first of all, I want to thank Chris and his team for inviting me to come and give a presentation about trail running. I know most of you here, it's more involved in road running, but hopefully you will find this interesting, and maybe this is something that you would want to come into and join after hearing about what we do in trail running. So on participation trends, 4 things I want to discuss is what is trail running, and then to talk to you about a survey that we did this year. I think some of the survey results will resonate like the ones from Run Repeat as well. We have quite a few of the results that show similar trends. Bit on eco-responsibility and also what our observations are in terms of the future of trail running. So before I start, I just want a show of hands from everyone here who has done a trail race. That's great. I think that's about 40% of us. But in any event, I want to give a little bit of background on what trail running is all about. So trail running, unlike road events, it can take place on various types of natural terrain. It can be on single tracks, it can be on snow trails, and it can be on dirt roads, forest paths, and of course, a lot of it takes place on big mountains as well. The different types of environments where it takes place, deserts, plains, forests, and as I mentioned, mountains as well. They are mostly off-road, and again, unlike in road running where we have these set distances of marathon distance, half marathon distance, in trail running, as Jens Jakob just mentioned as well, there's really no limit on distance or altitude gain or loss. And it really represents a logical discovery of a region from a point to another point. And often, you need special types of equipment to do trail running, just because of the specific nature of where you are. So specific types of trail running shoes, you might need headlamps if you're going out into the night, backpacks to bring your food, your other resources that you need. And there's also, in races, often there will be a mandatory equipment list, so including things like a survival blanket, maybe an extra layer of clothes, and things like mobile phones so that you can contact the organizers if you need. And so with ITRA, what we do is, how do you then classify these events? We based it on the distance and the elevation gain and loss, and we categorize them based on like 1 to 6 points, with 6 points being really the hardest ones. It can be like events that go over 300 kilometers and over 10,000 meters of elevation gain and loss, and then 1 being the easiest one, so to speak, the smaller distance ones, perhaps a 5K event. So having a little bit of idea of what trail running is, I want to share with you some survey results that we did this year. So what we did is we sent out a questionnaire to our members, which are individuals, trail runners, and we got back close to 10,000 responses from over 100 countries. And in terms of the gender split of the respondents, we have 82% men, 18% women, and the age, you can see that we are a pretty mature group with about big majority is over 35 years old. Only really about 13% of respondents are under 35. So we asked them quite a few questions. The first one is, what is your first running experience? And 63% came back and told us that their first running experience is actually road running. And about 20% say that their first running experience is on the trails. In terms of what age did you start trail running, you can see that there is, again, a very big majority that only started in their 30s to 40s. And perhaps an explanation is, as we just saw, many of them transitioned over from road running. So maybe that is one of the explanations why the age when they start trail running is a little bit more mature and older. In terms of why you start trail running, again, like Jens Jakob has mentioned, I think it was quite interesting to see that the first three reasons, respondents can point out to more than one reason, but then the most that people say why they do trail running is not about preparing for a race or losing weight. Instead, you can see that the first one is keeping in shape, and then to discover new places, and also to feel in harmony with nature. Annual budget of equipment that you need for trail running, over 50% of our respondents say that they spend over 200 euros per year. And quite a lot of our respondents say that trail running is not just their only sport. Only 18% say that they do just trail running. And many of them pursue mountain biking as well, road biking, and also swimming. We asked them quite a lot of questions on their training regime. I didn't set it out like in detail, but please feel free to read our full survey, which you can find it on ITRA's website. So we asked them about coaching, and many say that about 70% say that they don't use a coach. Only about 12% say they do. 5% say that they use free online training programs, and 3% say that they use paid online training programs. 57% of them say that they don't do any road running anymore, while 32% say that they do at least one track session a week. And then on the trails, what do? Majority say that they will train 1 to 3 times per week on the trails, and about 40% will train for 4 to 8 hours per week on the trails. And we also asked them about long training sessions, which is something that many trail runners would do, and which we categorize it as like 2 to 4 hours or even longer. 93% say that they will do one long session a week, including quite a significant percentage, 22% say that they will do a training session of over 6 hours, like in one go each week. Running breaks, interestingly, many say that they don't take any running breaks at all, and majority say that they take between 0 to 2 weeks of running break, and that's it over the year. In terms of injuries, yes, trail runners do get injured, and 62% say that they do get injuries during their training. And the most common types is sprained ankle, uneven terrain, ITB issues, and also muscular tears. Traveling abroad to races, we asked respondents, do you travel overseas to do events? About half say yes, and then the other half say no, they don't go abroad to participate in races. With that in mind, what we did was that we think that to incentivize and to encourage those that don't travel aboard to race, we set up what we call the ITRA National League. And this will kick off in 2023. It's an annual program starting on the 1st of January to the end of the year. So for each country, we have this National League program where all our members, all runners can sign up to it. So what you need to do is, during the whole year, you do 3 member races. And using our performance index, the ITRA Performance Index, which is recognized by World Athletics to be the official performance index, we will rank the runners, and after the end of the year, we will have these rankings for each country. And the good thing about this National League, we think, is that it is all-inclusive. So as long as you are a ITRA member race, you can join the National League. Going on to a number of races a year, actually 2/3 of our respondents say that they race over 4 times a year, and a quarter of them will do even 7 races a year. And the favorite distances, again, this might come across as a little bit hardcore for some in our audience, but trail runners, they like to do big distances. And the most popular, as you can see, is the marathon to the 80-kilometer distance. But on the other hand, if you look at when we ask them, what about your first race? Most of them started off with a 5-kilometer or a 10-kilometer trail race. So trail runners, I think one of the challenges and one of the things that actually people find exciting is to go further and further and to test themselves, to test their mental endurance and physical endurance as to how far they are able to go. With longest races, many have done very long distances. 40% of them say that the longest distance is actually over 100 kilometers. And in fact, 80% of them, you can see, have done marathon distances or beyond. In terms of the annual budget for race registration, the figures selected by most, you can see here, is 100 to 300 euros. So I think that gives you a snapshot of what quite a lot of trail runners around the world are doing and their habits. And I want to briefly go on to something that trail runners, I think, feel quite strongly about. It's about eco-responsibility and sustainability. I think, as we all know, the climate crisis is upon us, and ITRA and trail runners, one of our core values and responsibility we see is to be responsible, because our sport takes place in the natural environment. It's our playground. So it comes very naturally for trail runners to feel that we need to be ecologically responsible as far as we can. And we hope that this feeling, this movement can inspire a wider societal change as well. And we think that awareness of environmental issues is growing rapidly, and participants are willing to change their behavior if it involves more supporting environmental values. So what we did is, this year we launched the ITRA Green program. And the idea of the Green program is really to get our race organizer members to subscribe and to sign and agree that they will take responsibility and commit to race organization measures which will help to be more environmentally responsible. We asked them to agree that they will respect and conserve nature, its flora and fauna, natural habitats and landscape, integrate sustainability into their event organization, preserve and protect our trails and keep them litter-free, reduce waste at source and support recycling, reduce the event's carbon footprint, and also raise awareness amongst the stakeholders, so participants, volunteers, sponsors, and everyone involved. So all our organizers, when they join ITRA, they have to commit to signing the environmental charter. And with our program, we set out 3 core objectives. One is the reduced impact on the environment, so try our best to avoid ecologically fragile or remote places. We have a list of suggestions, and help to reduce the carbon emission to the extent possible, and waste reduction. So based on these 3 core objectives, we set out some detailed recommendations for all our race organizers to follow. Again, it's all on our website. We have 35 different practical measures that organizers can do to help to think about these things and use these tips and practical suggestions in their events. And the idea is really for us not to finger point and to say that these are the things you must do, because we are fully aware that in different countries, we are in different stages of the development of trail running. Races take place in all sorts of different environments, and there is no one-size-fits-all. But we want to start the conversation. We want organizers to come back to us and let us know what they have done in their own events, and so that we can all share know-how on this, and hopefully, like, again, we can bring this issue to the forefront. And what we also did was, again, like, carbon footprint. It's something that we all want to do something about, but how do you calculate it in a trail race? So we worked with a Swedish online registration company called RunID, and then they came up with this Excel sheet, it's very easy to use. You plug in information about your race, like how many participants you have, in your estimation, where do they come from, how many travel in from overseas, what do you use, like, in terms of your aid stations, do you give out swag, and do you give out like physical awards, and plug in all your numbers, and then it will tell you what is your total carbon tree equivalent and how much emission you have. And then we hope that based on that, you can find your own offset program, like that is applicable to wherever your region is, and hopefully, again, this is like the start of your actions to try and do something in terms of this important sustainability topic. And lastly, I just want to share some observations I have on the future of trail running. The overall participation, as our last speaker mentioned, it was growing phenomenally. I think he mentioned that it was a 230% increase in the last 10 years. So it's definitely growing. We see registration down actually compared to pre-COVID of 2019 by still 30%. And of course, there are still some places where trail running has not come back yet. And in terms of why it's down, that there are all sorts of reasons, I think, like including the refund policies when COVID struck, whether people are that prepared to sign off and commit to races for like that takes place in the future, that whether, for example, like with COVID, people have maybe stopped the habit. I think some other speakers were talking about it's a habit that people have to just fall back into when it comes to running. Female participation is definitely growing. We can see it, again, also from our own membership as well, generally, and also in races. More brands are also taking care of women trail runners now. We have more trail-specific shoes for female, backpacks that fits the female body more. The sport is also starting to be getting more interest from newer regions. Asia is an example. We see big growth in Asia. We see huge growth in South America. And we speculate whether Africa is the next one. We saw last month in the World Mountain and Trail Running Championship how amazing some of the African runners were doing, especially in the shorter events. And it will be interesting to see how they tackle the longer distances that are more typical of trail races. I believe we will see improved performance of the masses, really because trail running has got such a short history in many places, but now we have got more know-how available, we have more advanced equipment and more targeted training for trail runners. So we believe that with that, the masses will get just better and better in doing trail events. Professionalism of elites. Again, we saw last month in Chiang Mai, the inaugural World Mountain and Trail Running Championship, the amazing performance of athletes, the competition level at the pointier end of our sport is just absolutely amazing. We can see that will be getting more and more competitive. Topics like prize money will come to the forefront more and more. And in fact, we see a lot of bigger circuits and big races giving out prize money in trail running now. Technology has helped trail running coverage massively. I think in the old days, we flag off everyone and then they disappear off into the distance, into the trails, and you don't see them again until they hit the finish line. But now with the improved technology, the live tracking, the iRewind, and we hear, we can cover runners so much better. I think for those that were at the opening yesterday, you saw the footage of the World Mountain and Trail Running Championship. You can see that we can now capture trail running as it happens on the trails. And the other thing is with all these social media, personalized trail running stories, again, we think that will help to spread trail running. Green initiatives, as I just mentioned, it is something on many race organizers and runners' mind, on ITRA's mind as well. And we see that will, again, be something that will become a lot more on the forefront. We see newer products now, for example, shoes that are made of environmentally friendly material, clothes, and we see elites leading movements on being more environmentally conscious. So I think, again, green initiatives is something that will be here to stay, and we will be more and more involved in it. Okay, that ends my discussion. Sorry for overrunning a little bit, and I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, Steve.
Thank you very much. I've got one comment and one question. And the comment is, it was interesting to see when we talked about ISO 201-21 this morning, and it seemed as if there were it was expensive and a bit complicated to sign up to that. And it looks to me as if the ITRA green commitment might be a really good way of sort of almost no barrier to entry other than just getting on and introducing sustainable practices into your race organization. So I think that might be something that there really is a demand for, and it'll be great to see how that proceeds. I mean, it was only published this year, so it'd be great to see whether that really is adopted across trail running globally, and I hope it will be. And the other is to go back to Jens Jacob's presentation, where he said, I think it was at 200 miles, the women are faster than the men. And I thought that it might be interesting to get your take as the first female president of ITRA as to why that might be happening at that sort of a distance.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Just going back to your first point about our green program, yes, definitely. It is open to all. We have this badge that I was sharing, which is an ITRA badge, and we welcome all race organizers to put it on the website just to show that we are all in this, and we support the green program, and we are doing things to address environmental issues. On endurance of female runners, I think often with trail running, there is actually more than just the pure physical, your VO2 max involved. I think a lot of it is about endurance, which I don't have the studies, but a lot of people do say that like women does have quite a lot of endurance. People say that it's because we've got more fat content or like. But I think that like definitely with trail running, especially the longer distance, there is a lot of a mental component involved as well. There's a lot about what gear, whether you know the trail well, and I think there is so much that it becomes a leveler in terms of ability. It is no longer about like a 100-meter dash, where it's just the one which is the biggest lungs and heart will be able to do the best. So, and we see that in races as well, like for the longer distances, very often women can come up in the top 10 overall, and which I think it's just doesn't happen on track and field and in marathons.
Hi, Janet. Thank you very much. Some really useful data that you're sharing this morning, and I think the fact that you took to the stage itself with a broken foot, I think speaks volumes for the character and personality of trail runners. But I've got a question for this audience of mostly road race organizers. How do ITRA propose to overcome the challenges of scaling trail races?
You mean to make them like mass participation?
Exactly.
I think we already see it happening, as Jens Jakob was saying, that like events like now, the trend is to become bigger and bigger. It clearly, we would struggle to have like events that go like over like tens of thousands, because events do take place on on trails, which tends to be a bit narrower, more restricted. But having said that, there are cleverer ways to address that. A trail running festival, I mean, you can have more runners being involved in different distances and on different days, and you can stagger them, like with a staggered start, which is very often the case now with the bigger events. And yeah, and then also like by again, using the performance index to just see who are the faster ones and put them ahead. So I think there are some natural constraints to it, but again, I think trail running is just a bit, what it offers is a bit different. I think it's more a journey, and the journey, you just have to take into account that trails are just that much narrower. But having said that, we have events that are over tens of thousands of people happening. And the other thing that we have to overcome is also like checkpoints. Trail running, we have like checkpoints which offers more than just water or the banana. So again, like how do you get these food onto the terrain where road access might be tricky? Again, those are the things that we have to think about. But definitely, I think that the size of events are getting bigger and bigger.
That's right. And that's the presentation of the Gen Ed. May I have a big round of applause for her.
Thank you.
Thank you.